And you know, in some ways, the hospital environment was really obnoxious. It was noisy, it was smelly, it was bright, it was really very sort of, you know, it was a very, it was an extremely aversive environment for people to take psychedelics in. But at the same time, the fact that so many people felt so dissociated on DMT that they were totally out of their bodies, um, didn't know if they'd be coming back, that there was a vague glimmering in the back of their minds that, well, I'm safe. I'm in a hospital. If my heart does stop, if I do have a stroke, that I could be resuscitated. You know, as grim and as dire and as clinical as that sounds, that was part of the reassuring nature of people being in the hospital at that time. And you know, people. I mean, nobody had given IV DMT to any really significant number of people before. The only previous study was a handful of schizophrenics that got IV DMT in the late 50s. And they couldn't report on the effects very well. And there were some cardiovascular problems that were associated with intravenous DMT in that population. One gal's heart stopped for like a couple of moments. So, I mean, this was really very cutting edge, very out there, it was high risk. And people knew what they were getting into and they wanted to have the extra reassurance. And I was glad, actually, to have a crash cart in the room and a team, you know, in the hospital to respond to any emergencies. You know, so there were, it did turn out that it was a safe drug to give in those doses. Nobody had any significant cardiac effects of note. One guy's blood pressure went rather high, but he did fine, and we decided not to study him any further. But we never had to give any drugs to contend with the blood pressure effects. We never had to call the resuscitation team or whatever. But it was all part of the preparation process, was that you may feel like you're dying, and if that's the case, then there are two ways of dealing with it. You could either panic and resist it or just kind of go with it. And I would sort of say, in a parenthetical sort of way to people, and if you do get into any tight spots with your cardiovascular system, we can respond almost immediately.